She was an attractive single mom looking for Mr. Right.
She wanted to be in a real relationship just like any other human being.
He promised to fulfill her every fantasy.
He talked about doing things in the bedroom that simply cannot be repeated, but that's what appealed to her.
But just as their passions reached stratospheric heights, tragedy struck.
She said, Mommy's dead. Something happened to Mama.
There was blood all over the bed. There was blood spatter on the wall.
The ensuing investigation would expose a closet full of dirty laundry and a secret so incendiary, some wondered if this murder was justified.
Past week, I've been a dead man walking. How could she possibly do this to somebody?
The whole country ended up chiming in. Everybody was divided.
It was so heartbreaking to hear national radio personalities say, I would have done the same thing too.
Why me? Why me?
She should have told him from the beginning. I think the driving force in his action was revenge.
September 6, 2012. It's a warm fall afternoon in the historic Dallas neighborhood of Oak Cliff. Two young siblings are walking home from school, but they have no idea the horror that's waiting for them.
They came home from school just like they did every day. They walk through the door and they're calling their mother.
Mom, where are you?
And she doesn't answer.
Opening the bedroom door, they are greeted by a horrifying sight.
When the children saw their mother lying down, they walk over to her and they noticed that there was blood on her neck.
They immediately started screaming and crying, so they ran to the neighbor's house.
Moments later, Dallas emergency dispatchers receive a call.
Dallas 323.
Come back here, something is wrong.
What is wrong?
Ma'am, I just know my neighbor kids just came home and found their mother on the floor laid down in a pool of blood.
First responders rush into the bedroom, but sadly, it's much too late. The woman, 28-year-old Cecily Bolden, is already dead. It's clear to EMTs this is no accident.
181. We have a stabbing. DOA. Start homicide unit, please.
Cecily Bolden died from 2 stab wounds to the neck. There was 1 stab wound that severed her carotid artery.
She sat there and actually drowned in her own blood.
As news of the tragedy rips through the apartment complex, it seems impossible to believe that someone would want to brutally murder this beautiful young mother of 2.
I just didn't know what to think at the time. I was upset. I was frustrated.
But as the investigation into Cecily's death unfolds, it becomes clear that she harbored a deep secret, one that may have cost her her life. Born in 1984 and raised by 2 hardworking parents, Cecily Bolden demonstrated a fiercely independent streak from an early age.
Cecily was very much headstrong, firecracker, stood on her own ground, did what she wanted to do. She was very much so interested in living life her way.
After high school, Cecily became a certified nursing assistant in Dallas. But friends and family said her true passion lay elsewhere.
She really wanted to be a hairdresser, because that's all she ever did was hair, braiding.
She was always braiding hair for her friends and her friends' kids. She ultimately wanted to open her own beauty salon.
But Cecily's dream took a backseat to reality when at 19, she gave birth to a beautiful baby girl named Bethany. While her relationship with Bethany's father didn't last, Cecily soon found someone to take his place. A charismatic Dallas DJ named Jeff Busby.
In the city, they know him as DJ Frost.
Yeah, we started out being really flirty with each other. It took off from there. We started dating and hanging out a lot.
Despite an 11-year age difference, 22-year-old Cecily and 33-year-old Jeff wasted no time moving in together. It wasn't long before the couple welcomed another child into the world, son Gerald. It was in motherhood that Cecily found her true calling.
She was very devoted to her children and making sure that her children had the best life that she could possibly offer them.
Cecily's driving force was her children, period. And she loved kids and kids loved her.
But after 2 years together, Cecily and Jeff realized their relationship wasn't built for the long haul.
We just didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things. We just chose to go in different directions, but we stayed cool with each other.
For a woman blessed with a fiery personality and a knockout body, Cecily had no trouble hopping back into the Dallas dating scene.
It's hot, she was all that. My sister was thick, she had the booty, everything that guys like.
Cecily might have had her pick of potential boyfriends, but over the next few years, she kissed her fair share of frogs. By the time she turned 28, Cecily still hadn't found her Prince Charming.
Cecily did go through a rough patch. We live in the real world. And no, her choices always weren't the best.
A couple of the guys she dated were a little questionable. I wasn't too fond of course, and didn't want around the kids.
Worst of all, some of Cecily's boyfriends were allegedly violent with her.
There were several domestic violence cases against her ex-boyfriends.
She had been abused in the past, so she definitely had some things to be concerned about.
But through it all, Cecily never gave up hope on finding true love.
She was really looking for someone to love her and to offer her probably what she envisioned as, the very best relationship that she could have.
Those dreams seemed to finally come true in August of 2012, when Cecily met 36-year-old Larry Dunn in an online chat room.
It was pretty innocent. They started flirting, and then one thing kind of led to another.
I think that she just was seeking love and attention, and he was willing to shower her with that.
A charismatic and successful furniture mover in Dallas, it didn't take long for Larry to sweep Cecily off her feet.
There was definitely an attraction there, and it wasn't long before things moved from the virtual world to the real world.
Unlike some of the other men Cecily had recently dated, Larry treated her and her kids with warmth and tenderness.
She felt that he loved her, that he wanted to help her take care of the children, that he really wanted to be in a committed relationship with her.
Though they had only known each other for a few weeks, their physical chemistry was undeniable.
Their relationship turned sexual just like that. It was hot, it was sexy, it was intense, and they fulfilled each other's every desire.
But
close. Say I was one of my best friends.
But digging further into Cecily's romantic background, investigators discover that in between dating Jeff Busby and Larry Dunn, Cecily was involved with several other men. And more than one of these relationships raises serious red flags.
She filed domestic violence charges for violence against herself and her children.
For detectives, it's a stunning turn of events. Could one of these former flames have found out about Cecily and Larry's red-hot romance and flew into a jealous rage? As police begin peeling back the layers of Cecily's life, they have no idea the skeletons they are about to uncover. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, every minute, 24 people in the United States fall victim to domestic violence. It's been 6 hours since 28-year-old Dallas resident Cecily Bolden was found stabbed to death inside her apartment. After dismissing robbery as a motive, investigators shifted their focus to Cecily's new love interest, 36-year-old Larry Dunn. But with no evidence connecting Larry to the crime, investigators are at a loss. And with cops still on the lookout for a mystery man seen entering Cecily's apartment shortly before her death, time is of the essence.
And we need to find out who this person is.
Desperate for a lead, investigators decide to shine a spotlight on Cecily's roller coaster love life.
Detectives ran a background check on Cecily and learned that there were several domestic violence cases against her ex-boyfriends.
I don't know if it was that the pickings were slim, but Cecily sometimes didn't make the very best choices in men.
When detectives start investigating the former men in Cecily's life, they uncover a slew of potential suspects.
Police investigators looked at Cecily's ex-boyfriends, several of whom had a violent history with her.
But one of Cecily's violent ex-boyfriends stands out above the rest.
He was fighting on her. He used to hit her. That's just the kind of guy he was. He would fight on women all the time.
The man's name is Rex, and apparently, Rex's rage wasn't reserved solely for Cecily. Her friends recount an incident that took place in 2006, involving her beloved 2-year-old son, Gerald.
Her boyfriend was watching him one day while she was at work, and we got a call from the hospital. The doctor said that he'd been punched and kicked.
When Cecily saw what happened, she was devastated. She was really devastated.
Cecily never forgave Rex for hurting her son and soon ended their relationship. In light of their volatile history, police can't help but wonder if Rex might have dropped by Cecily's apartment unannounced, which in turn triggered a violent confrontation.
Nothing sets a mother off quicker than someone trying to abuse her child. So if one of her exes did show up, Cecily may have become enraged.
But no sooner do investigators think they have a promising new lead than they hit a brick wall. Pulling the ex-couple's case file, they learn Rex is currently serving time on charges related to the child abuse incident against Cecily's son.
He ended up finally getting caught and he got sentenced to like 20 years, 20 to 25 years.
It's a disappointing setback. But Rex is not the only ex-boyfriend whose violent past raises eyebrows. Detectives come across another man from Cecily's past, Michael Walker, a man who was even more despised by Cecily's family than Rex.
If he ain't in jail, he need to be in jail. Praise God for him that I haven't seen him. Little leprechaun looking mother.
What you mean I need to back up?
You're not coming in here. You need to back up.
I damn near take care of all the bills in this house. What you mean I need to back up?
You don't take care of nothing.
What you mean?
No, you are not coming in here. No. You need to leave.
That he had been abusive toward her in the past. He had broken her car window.
Cecily's family claims the abuse escalated after she broke up with Michael in early 2011, just months before her murder.
Bye. He was mad, he harassed and threatened her, he kicked her vehicle, and he told her, you better invest in some protection.
Had Michael Walker followed through on his threat and killed Cecily in a jealous rage?
Sometimes people can't accept when an ex has moved on. The jealousy of a former lover can take someone who is otherwise perfectly rational and make them snap.
Police put out an APB on Michael Walker, then once again turned to the one person who might help them tie Michael to the scene once and for all. Cecily's neighbor, LaToya Arnett.
She told police she saw a man walking into Cecily's apartment the day of the murder.
Could Michael Walker be the mystery intruder LaToya saw on that fateful day? Or is there another, even more dangerous man in Cecily's life? One who wouldn't stop until Cecily was dead. After enduring years of abusive relationships, Cecily Bolden finally felt she turned a corner when she met Larry Dunn online. For the single mother of two, Larry represented a chance at true happiness. But after Cecily's discovered dead in her own apartment, police find themselves staring at a rogues gallery of volatile ex-boyfriends, any one of whom could have killed Cecily.
A couple of the guys she dated were a little questionable, but I mean, I was questionable too, so I can't, pass judgment on nobody.
But after learning about a series of disturbing events that took place the year before, police have their sights set on one man, an old flame of Cecily's named Michael Walker.
Michael had allegedly threatened Cecily Bolden by leaving harassing messages and allegedly threatening her life. So he was a prime suspect.
But with Michael Walker's whereabouts unknown, detectives have no choice but to turn to their next best option, Cecily's neighbor, LaToya Arnett. In her initial statement, LaToya claimed to have witnessed an unknown black male entering Cecily's apartment just a few hours before the murder. If their hunch is correct, the man LaToya saw that day was Michael Walker.
Have you ever heard Celia talk about an ex-boyfriend?
Michael?
Yes.
It wasn't him. I know how he looked.
Without a doubt, it was not him.
Not Michael.
But if the man LaToya saw that day wasn't Michael Walker, then who was it? The only other person of interest that even remotely fits LaToya's description is Larry Dunn. But after their initial interview with Larry, detectives all but ruled him out as a suspect. With no other leads, detectives circle back to Larry Dunn, if only to make doubly sure of his innocence. However, when they arrive at Larry's residence, they make a startling discovery.
Yes, is Larry here?
Larry Dunn was a married man. He had 2 kids.
Here to talk to you about Cecily Bolden.
Who was Cecily?
The fact that Larry Dunn was married at the time adds a whole new layer of complication to this case. It could have been that Larry's wife, catching wind of the affair, decided herself to go after Cecily.
But judging from her reaction, Larry's wife had no idea her husband was carrying on an affair with Cecily Bolden.
Now, did you know her, ma'am? Do you even know who we're talking about? Or
I have
is this...
no idea. This is the first time I'm hearing about this.
Ooh.
I've been at home raising kids.
She was absolutely shocked. It was clear she had no idea. So if she had no idea, she had no reason to murder Cecily.
Why don't we go down to the office and talk about it if you have no problems with it?
Look, if it helps, I'll go.
His wife might not have had a motive to murder Cecily, but that doesn't get Larry off the hook for possible murder. Back at the station, Larry quickly confesses to one thing. This wasn't the first time he cheated on his wife.
It was pretty common for Larry to cheat on his wife. Larry would meet women on chat lines and they would exchange phone numbers.
You got 5, 6, 7 women that you dealing with.
It seems Cecily wasn't the love of Larry's life so much as his latest sexual conquest.
He wasn't looking for a relationship. He wasn't looking to leave his wife. He just wanted to have extramarital sex. So she thought she was hooking up with somebody that was single. She had no idea he was married. He never told her.
Me and Cecily, I was f***ing around on my wife.
So y'all been having sex for 2 weeks, 3 weeks? What?
We had sex like 3 times.
While Larry comes clean about his infidelity, he maintains he had nothing to do with Cecily's murder. Though Larry does admit that he did have sex with Cecily the morning of the crime.
I called her like, look, if I want to come through, I want some. She's like, come on. I went over there.
He said he went there, they had sex, and he left. When he left, she was fine. She said bye, he said bye, and he left.
Larry is so adamant about his innocence, he volunteers to let investigators search his car. But when CSIs examine Larry's vehicle, they make a surprising discovery.
Luminol is a substance where you can spray it on blood and it will illuminate. So that's what they sprayed in the car. And so at that point, they saw that there was quite a bit of blood in there.
Larry's story changed from, I just had sex with her, I don't know anything about a murder, to she killed me, so I killed her.
But what does Larry mean by that cryptic comment? Detectives can hardly believe what Larry says next.
He said that he had killed her because he was in a rage over finding out that she was HIV positive.
He was pretty adamant that he was the victim in this case. There were multiple things going on in his mind, and he blamed her for all of that.
According to Larry, Cecily had failed to disclose that she was HIV positive prior to having sex with him the first time.
For the past week, I've been a dead man walking, and all I could think about was her. And why and how could she possibly do this to somebody?
Right.
Like, why? Why me? You know, why me? And I was hurt, and my mind was going 1,000,000 miles a second all day since she told me. Every day since she told me.
Adding to Larry's anger was the health risk Cecily's HIV posed for his wife.
Having HIV would have been devastating for him because at that point he's possibly passed it along to his wife.
It seemed as if Larry Dunn had lost it all. He had potentially lost his family. He was potentially going to die from HIV.
I think within the African American community, there is still some stigma surrounding a person being HIV positive. Along with stigma comes isolation, fear, and views of hatred.
Certain he was carrying the HIV virus, Larry thought he might as well enjoy his time with Cecily while he could.
We had already had sex like 4 times.
So you didn't think one more was gonna matter?
Why would it? 4 times. Unprotected with a chick with HIV.
According to Larry, it was after this 4th and final sexual encounter that his anger at Cecily turned to rage.
He said that she began talking about having HIV and she was acting like it wasn't a big deal. He says that just sent him into a rage.
I just lost it, man.
And what did you do?
I went in the kitchen and I got a steak knife.
Did she see the knife in your hand?
She didn't see it until it was in her throat.
He wanted her to feel pain, so he stabbed her in her throat and chest area.
The manner of the attack was very brutal. The one who actually killed her is the one that was in her carotid artery.
Larry washed up before he left. He also burned his clothes and he threw the knife in the dumpster.
Based on Larry's confession, detectives are able to locate the murder weapon. They also charge Larry with the murder of Cecily Bolden. But even with Larry in custody, plenty of questions still remain. Not the least of which is whether Larry's actions constituted self-defense.
If she had HIV and she didn't tell him until after the fact, was he justified? After all, this is Texas. And in the court of law, when it comes to defending yourself, anything is possible.
There was division in the community based on whether or not Larry's actions were justified. In that a number of people did state that if it happened to them, they probably would have reacted in the wrong way or in a manner similar to Larry's.
When 28-year-old Cecily Bolden began a heated relationship with Larry Dunn, she thought she'd finally met the man of her dreams. But after a few short weeks, that dream turned into a nightmare when Cecily's children discovered her body in the bedroom of their apartment. After investigating a virtual laundry list of potential suspects, detectives ultimately discovered that not only was Cecily's new boyfriend behind the crime, he was also a married man.
Well, I don't think that she had any idea that he was married.
He had led this double life. He was sleeping around on his wife and successfully doing so for a while.
But perhaps the most shocking aspect of the case was Larry's alleged motive for murdering Cecily.
She knew that she was HIV positive, but she did not initially tell him. I think he felt disrespected and hurt by that. And so it just triggered something in his mind, and he decided that he was going to kill her.
And things only got worse when Cecily allegedly made light of the situation, which pushed Larry over the edge.
It's not that bad.
So you just gonna give me HIV, endanger my life, and pretend like it's okay?
Larry Dunn trusted Cecily Bolden. He had been intimate with her. So perhaps he was feeling betrayed or confused, could not get past what he believed she had done to him.
But as the tawdry details of the case go viral, a surprising number of people come out in support of Larry's actions.
The whole country ended up chiming in on it. A lot of people were like, I would have did the same thing. And then you had the other side of the country, and they're like, you know, nobody should have to die.
It initially was portrayed more as he'd found out that she had HIV and he killed her right then. That's a different scenario than what we had. He knew that she had HIV. It was a week later after that the murder happened. She didn't tell Larry Dunn initially because she just wanted love and acceptance. While she did something wrong, clearly, that doesn't mean that he was justified in killing her.
Then, just weeks before Larry's murder trial is set to begin, a shocking development adds another, even more bizarre twist to the case.
He does not have HIV. He didn't get tested before killing her. He got tested 3 times while he was waiting for trial. They were all negative.
It's under this cloud of scandal and uncertainty that the state versus Larry Dunn gets underway. And despite the fact that Larry isn't HIV positive, many in the courtroom believe his self-defense claim will still win out.
You want to think it was an open shut case because, yeah, the guy confessed to stabbing her. But when you have to throw in that HIV, you're going to have an uphill battle.
Larry Dunn believed that he was justified in killing Cecily Bolden, and he thought that the jurors would agree with him.
From the prosecution's opening statement, their objective is clear: to minimize any sympathy jurors might feel for Larry Dunn.
The strategy was to focus on Larry Dunn's actions, that he was the cheating husband because he would sleep with women without using a condom and then come back and sleep with his wife.
Prosecutors assert that on September 6, 2012, more than a week after learning that Cecily was HIV positive, Larry drove to her home to have unprotected sex with her one last time. On the presumption that he too had contracted the disease, Larry entered Cecily's bedroom, hell-bent on revenge.
I think it was a premeditated attack. He knew exactly what he was doing. He laid down beside her and just stuck the knife right into her neck.
He could have taken steps to get help, to get information about HIV, to find out whether he actually had the virus. But he didn't do that. He went straight to rage.
Prosecutors also cite the physical evidence that ties Larry to the crime scene: the recovered murder weapon, his bloody car, and last but not least, his own confession.
How many times did you stab her?
Twice. I think twice. Whatever's gonna happen really doesn't matter to me, man, because again, in my mind, I'm already dead, bro. I feel like she killed me, so I killed her.
Leaving Larry's own ominous words in the minds of the jury, the prosecution rests its case. But as defense attorneys prepare to call their first witness, an unexpected turn of events rocks the courtroom.
It's very unusual that that would happen. I really didn't think that he would do that.
Inside a Dallas courtroom, Larry Dunn is on trial for the murder of his 28-year-old mistress, Cecily Bolden. Prosecutors have alleged that this self-confessed philanderer intentionally stabbed Cecily to death a week after learning she had exposed him to the HIV virus.
They'd had sex a number of times, and then she decided to tell him. He went over there for revenge, had sex with her again, and killed her.
With prosecutors finished laying out their case, it's now Larry's attorney's turn to launch their defense. But before they even call their first witness, the case veers in an unexpected direction.
He told his defense attorney that he wanted to enter the guilty plea, and I was very surprised by that.
The community was shocked when Larry Dunn entered his guilty plea.
But even after entering a guilty plea, neither Larry nor his attorney is ready to throw in the towel. Their new plan is to establish sympathy for Larry at a different proceeding, his sentencing hearing.
The defense attorney basically didn't want to get up there and argue that he was not guilty when it was so clear that he was. He wanted to save the ammunition that he had to try to get him the lowest sentence he possibly could.
This ammunition takes the form of a legal doctrine known in Texas as the sudden passion defense.
The defendant must prove that he caused the death under the immediate influence of sudden passion. It reduces the offense to a second-degree felony offense.
Normally, the punishment range is 5 years in prison to 99 years in prison. If the jury makes a finding of sudden passion, then it is reduced from 2 years to 20 years.
At question is how much spontaneity, if any, governed Larry's impulse to kill.
You have to be caught in the moment. Sudden passion definitely has a time element. It can't be the result of former provocation.
Taking the stand on his own behalf, Larry reiterates what he told detectives during his confession a year earlier.
He in fact says himself, killing her wasn't on the menu, that's just how it ended up.
He says the more she talked about living with HIV and that it wasn't that bad, the angrier he got.
It's powerful testimony, but according to prosecutors, it doesn't amount to sudden impulse.
Now, this wasn't a sudden passion issue because Larry Dunn had days to reflect on the fact that he had been exposed to HIV. And after he knew that, he went back, had sex with her again, and then decided to kill her.
For prosecutors, there's no better evidence of premeditation than a series of text messages that Cecily and Larry exchanged the days leading up to her murder.
He'd sent her 300 text messages in which they'd kept talking the whole time, including talking about her HIV status. He sent a lot of very graphic sexual text messages. His reaction was, I'm upset, I'm hurt, but it's okay, we'll be together.
According to prosecutors, these text messages prove without a doubt that Larry had been plotting Cecily's murder for days. The argument seems valid, but will the jury go along with it?
There was one juror who did not want to sentence Larry Dunn. We learned that he had an issue with Cecily Bolden, that he felt that Cecily Bolden had disrespected Larry Dunn.
They sent out a note saying that they were hung, and the judge, instead of declaring a mistrial, sent them back to continue deliberating.
On November 5th, 2013, jurors finally reach a unanimous decision. They sentence Larry Dunn to 40 years in prison.
The jury found that Larry Dunn had not acted in sudden passion. Had they done so, it would have reduced his sentence significantly.
My immediate reaction to what he got is good. Larry Dunn received 40 years. All right. Of course, he'll be an old fart when he get out.
Is 40 years enough for what he did? No. I'd have to ask my kids that. They'd probably say no.
And as the years go by, the death of Cecily Bolden has become a cautionary tale about ignorance and prejudice, a tragedy rooted in a lack of awareness about HIV.
I feel like she killed me, so I killed her.
Cecily Bolden was not killed because she was HIV positive. She was killed based on the miseducation and stigma that Larry had about the disease.
I feel like after she told you, you had choices, bro. I mean, after you found out, you had multiple choices. You had to kill her.
If Larry Dunn had felt like Sister Bolden gave him HIV, he could have followed her with the local authorities.
Though nothing can bring Cecily back, it's her loved one's hope that her life will serve as both an inspiration to others living with the disease and as an example of just how deadly ignorance can be.
I want to make sure that the story doesn't go into the distance, that we are active as a community in educating people about HIV, making sure that people know that HIV is not this instant death sentence, is so that those fears and stigmas are just not there.
She was an attractive single mom looking for Mr. Right.
She wanted to be in a real relationship just like any other human being.
He promised to fulfill her every fantasy.
He talked about doing things in the bedroom that simply cannot be repeated, but that's what appealed to her.
But just as their passions reached stratospheric heights, tragedy struck.
She said, Mommy's dead. Something happened to Mama.
There was blood all over the bed. There was blood spatter on the wall.
The ensuing investigation would expose a closet full of dirty laundry and a secret so incendiary, some wondered if this murder was justified.
Past week, I've been a dead man walking. How could she possibly do this to somebody?
The whole country ended up chiming in. Everybody was divided.
It was so heartbreaking to hear national radio personalities say, I would have done the same thing too.
Why me? You know, why me?
She should have told it from the beginning. I think the driving force in his action was revenge.
September 6, 2012. It's a warm fall afternoon in the historic Dallas neighborhood of Oak Cliff. Two young siblings are walking home from school, but they have no idea the horror that's waiting for them.
They came home from school just like they did every day. They walk through the door and they're calling their mother.
Mom, where are you?
And she doesn't answer.
Opening the bedroom door, they are greeted by a horrifying sight.
When the children saw their mother lying down, they walk over to her and they noticed that there was blood on her neck.
They immediately started screaming and crying, so they ran to the neighbor's house.
Moments later, Dallas emergency dispatchers receive a call.
Dallas 323. Come back here as soon as wrong. What is wrong? Ma'am, I just know my neighbor kids just came home and found their mother on the floor laying down in a pool of blood.
First responders rush into the bedroom, but sadly, it's much too late. The woman, 28-year-old Cecily Bolden, is already dead. It's clear to EMTs this is no accident.
181. We have a stabbing. DOA. Start homicide unit, please.
Cecily Bolden died from 2 stab wounds to the neck. There was 1 stab wound that severed her carotid artery.
She sat there and actually drowned in her own blood.
As news of the tragedy rips through the apartment complex, it seems impossible to believe that someone would want to brutally murder this beautiful young mother of 2.
I just didn't know what to think at the time. I was upset, I was frustrated.
But as the investigation into Cecily's death unfolds, it becomes clear that she harbored a deep secret, one that may have cost her her life. Born in 1984 and raised by 2 hardworking parents, Cecily Bolden demonstrated a fiercely independent streak from an early age.
Cecily was very much headstrong, firecracker, stood on her own ground, did what she wanted to do. She was very much so interested in living life her way.
After high school, Cecily became a certified nursing assistant in Dallas. But friends and family said her true passion lay elsewhere.
She really wanted to be a hairdresser, because that's all she ever did was hair, braiding.
She was always braiding hair for her friends and her friends' kids. She ultimately wanted to open her own beauty salon.
But Cecily's dream took a backseat to reality when at 19, she gave birth to a beautiful baby girl named Bethany. While her relationship with Bethany's father didn't last, Cecily soon found someone to take his place. A charismatic Dallas DJ named Jeff Busby.
In the city, they know him as DJ Frost.
Yeah, we started out being really flirty with each other. It took off from there. We started dating and hanging out a lot.
Despite an 11-year age difference, 22-year-old Cecily and 33-year-old Jeff wasted no time moving in together. It wasn't long before the couple welcomed another child into the world, son Gerald. It was in motherhood that Cecily found her true calling.
She was very devoted to her children and making sure that her children had the best life that she could possibly offer them.
Cecily's driving force was her children, period. And she loved kids and kids loved her.
But after 2 years together, Cecily and Jeff realized their relationship wasn't built for the long haul.
We just didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things. We just chose to go in different directions, but we stayed cool with each other.
For a woman blessed with a fiery personality and a knockout body, Cecily had no trouble hopping back into the Dallas dating scene.
It's hot, she was all that. My sister was thick, she had the booty, everything that guys like.
Cecily might have had her pick of potential boyfriends, but over the next few years, she kissed her fair share of frogs. By the time she turned 28, Cecily still hadn't found her Prince Charming.
Cecily did go through a rough patch. We live in the real world. And no, her choices always weren't the best.
A couple of the guys she dated were a little questionable. I wasn't too fond of course, and didn't want around the kids.
Worst of all, some of Cecily's boyfriends were allegedly violent with her.
There were several domestic violence cases against her ex-boyfriends.
She had been abused in the past, so she definitely had some things to be concerned about.
But through it all, Cecily never gave up hope on finding true love.
She was really looking for someone to love her and to offer her probably what she envisioned as, the very best relationship that she could have.
Those dreams seemed to finally come true in August of 2012, when Cecily met 36-year-old Larry Dunn in an online chat room.
It was pretty innocent. They started flirting, and then one thing kind of led to another.
I think that she just was seeking love and attention, and he was willing to shower her with that.
A charismatic and successful furniture mover in Dallas, it didn't take long for Larry to sweep Cecily off her feet.
There was definitely an attraction there, and it wasn't long before things moved from the virtual world to the real world.
Unlike some of the other men Cecily had recently dated, Larry treated her and her kids with warmth and tenderness.
She felt that he loved her, that he wanted to help her take care of the children, that he really wanted to be in a committed relationship with her.
Though they had only known each other for a few weeks, their physical chemistry was undeniable.
Their relationship turned sexual just like that. It was hot, it was sexy, it was intense, and they fulfilled each other's every desire.
But just when it seemed their love for one another had never burned brighter, tragedy struck. As investigators arrive at Cecily's apartment, their first objective is to secure the crime scene. Second, they are faced with the terrible task of speaking with Cecily's children about their gruesome discovery.
Aside from losing their mother and the tragedy of that, they walked in and saw their mother lying dead in a pool of blood. I mean, that's horribly traumatic for a child.
But the burning question on everyone's mind is who could have murdered this mother of two in cold blood? "28-year-old single mother Cecily Bolden dreamed of being in a committed, loving relationship. After years of heartache and disappointment, her love life took an uplifting turn when she met 36-year-old furniture mover Larry Dunn.
Larry appeared to embody everything that Cecily was looking for: love, devotion, companionship.
But Cecily and Larry's love connection was severed on September 6, 2012, when she was found stabbed to death inside her Dallas apartment.
Was this a robbery? Could this have been someone she knew? Who could have done this to her?
And while there's no sign of the murder weapon, the cause of death is clear.
What led to Cecily Bolden's death was a stab wound to the carotid artery, and she pretty much just bled out.
There was a lot of blood on the bed. There was some blood spatter on the wall. It was a fatal blow right away, basically.
As investigators continue processing the gruesome scene, news of Cecily's death reaches friends and family.
I got the phone call from the kids, and they were hysterical. They were crying and screaming, and I asked what's going on, and she told me Mommy's dead. Something happened to Mama.
My little cousin told me that someone had killed your sister, and I'm like, what? I'm like, Doc, don't come over here playing like that. You know, he's like, nah, man, I'm for real, your sister dead.
Grieving friends and family, along with Cecily's 2 children, gather outside her apartment. Everyone, including police, is desperate for answers. But at this point, investigators can only speculate as to a possible motive.
I didn't know what to think. Maybe somebody broke in, somebody done jumped on her.
Interviewing neighbors, it's a theory that quickly gains traction.
Someone had broken into her house 2 days prior to the murder. So the speculation was whomever broke into the house had returned to finish the job.
Was it possible the same individual had violently attacked Cecily in some sort of robbery gone wrong? Speaking to neighbors, investigators discover that Cecily had a reputation in the community for keeping cash inside her apartment, which gives the deadly robbery theory even more traction.
Cecily sold candy and snacks from her apartment just to raise a little extra money. She may have had large sums of money at her apartment.
Everyone knew that Cecily Bolden was the candy lady of the neighborhood. That's a potential motive.
People is struggling out here. And in this city, your door will get kicked down if they feel like you making money like that.
But as detectives scour the scene, they soon realize there's a problem with the robbery theory.
There was no broken windows, the door wasn't kicked in.
Nothing stolen, not a dime took. Had every penny that was in her candy jar, had every dollar. Nah, it wasn't no robbery.
But if robbery isn't the motive, then investigators are presented with an even more chilling possibility that Cecily knew her attacker.
It seemed like she knew her attacker because the way she was found. Nothing with a t-shirt on. It's like she was prepared for someone.
Half naked, on the floor, no forced entry. But yeah, she knew whoever was in there. Real good.
Working from the assumption that Cecily knew her attacker, police dig into her personal records for clues.
Police started looking into her cell phone, text messages, and they came across the name Larry Dunn.
Police track down Larry and ask him to come to the station for an interview.
Like I told you over the phone and in person, there's been an incident, and that's why I wanted to talk to you, okay? But
what is this?
It's then that investigators break the news about Cecily's murder.
She was found dead in her apartment, and we're working out.
Oh, God.
You know, we're treating it as a murder right now.
God.
He was definitely upset by the news.
And while Larry freely admits he and Cecily's romance was red hot, he claims their passion never boiled over into physical violence.
And y'all never gotten into any kind of arguments or fights or...
No, I mean, argument and fight for what?
Larry is adamant that he's innocent of any crime and insists that he was nowhere near Cecily's house at the time of the murder. Detectives are still suspicious. They run a background check on Larry, but find nothing that indicates he is capable of physical violence.
He'd been arrested for a few minor misdemeanors, nothing serious, and especially nothing violent.
It takes a really cold-hearted individual to stab to death a mother of 2 children. It just didn't seem like somebody that would just go out and murder a person.
In addition, the physical evidence doesn't seem to tie Larry to the scene in any way.
There were a lot of pictures taken of Larry Dunn. He didn't have any cuts on his hands, anything like that.
Larry is tentatively cleared of any wrongdoing. Still searching for Cecily's killer, investigators turn to a friend of Cecily's named LaToya Arnett.
They found LaToya Arnett, the person who made the 911 call, and they brought her down to the station to give a statement.
It's a move that quickly pays dividends. LaToya tells police that approximately 3 hours before Cecily's body was discovered, she saw an unknown man enter Cecily's apartment.
It was a male, black male I never seen before.
Describe him to me.
He was probably about
Black
five.
male?
Black man. He was probably about 5'6".
Whether the man knew Cecily was unclear to LaToya, but she claims he obviously felt comfortable enough to enter the apartment unannounced.
He just walked in. He twisted the doorknob and walked in. And I felt like that was kind of strange.
Detectives can't help but wonder if this mystery man might have been Cecily's boyfriend, Larry Dunn.
You ever heard the name Larry?
My cousin told me, Cecily said that she started talking to somebody named Larry.
Okay. But you never met him?
I never met him.
Was it Larry Dunn that LaToya Arnett saw entering Cecily's apartment the morning of the murder? Detectives create a photo lineup to see if LaToya recognizes Larry as the mystery man.
Is this the person you saw walk into Cecily's apartment today? I don't know him.
With LaToya unable to identify Larry Dunn as the mystery man, detectives move on to another potential suspect, Cecily's ex-boyfriend, Jeff Busby.
They had a long history. They had a roller coaster relationship. Could he have been jealous? Could he have acted in a fit of rage? It's possible.
Possible, but according to investigators, not likely.
Jeff Busby's alibi checked out. Jeff and Cecily were on good terms.